Hello, this is Operations with Integers, Multiplying Integers, Example 3. We're going to do some very tricky problems in Example 3, and the steps will always be the same, and if you're willing to follow them, you shouldn't make many mistakes here. What I've done is rewritten this with empty parentheses instead of the variable, and x equals -2. So this is -2 times itself 4 times. I'll write this out so we see what we have. That's -2 times itself 4 times. Now let's work the sign separately and the number separately. Negative times a negative is a positive. Positive times a negative is a negative. Negative times a negative is a positive. So the answer here is going to be positive, and it's whatever 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. This answer is positive 16. Now if we do them 2 at a time, this would be positive 4 times -2 times -2. Now this would be -8 times -2, and that's the positive 16 I was talking about. This one is negative x to the 4th. Now you have to follow the steps, or else it's very difficult to see what's going on here. I've just written empty parentheses for the variable and copied everything else down, and now I put in my -2. So I have minus a -2 to the 4th power. Well, I just figured out that -2 to the 4th power is 16. See, -2 to the 4th power, we figured it out, is positive 16. So this minus, if this is positive 16, then minus this is -16. And to write it out, I'd have this is this minus, and now I'll have -2 times itself 4 times. And minus a -2 is positive 2. So I'll have 2 times -2 times -2 times -2. This is -4. 4 times -2 times -2. Now this is like I said, that's -4. 2 times the -2 is -4, and then I copied all this down. -4 times -2 is positive 8. So I have positive 8 times -2, and this is equal to -16. Now C is another very tricky problem, and we just have to be careful with it. Empty parentheses to the 3rd power minus empty parentheses. And I put in a -2 for my x. Okay, now I can start working on this. -2 to the 3rd power, the 3 pertains to the whole thing, the -2. So that's -2 times -2 times -2. And here, minus a -2, that's +2. So let's start working this out. This is positive 4 times -2 plus 2. And now 4 times -2 is -8. And lastly, a -8 and a positive 2, that adds to a -6. One more thing I want you to notice is that here I had some multiplication and I had this addition. Now, without thinking, I knew that the PEMDAS rules say that I have to do the additions and subtractions last. So, you can't add this -2 and the +2 to get 0. That would make the whole thing 0. This has to be done last. So this answer is -6.